All right, so part 6 of my 7-part series for National Suicide Awareness Week that's going on this week right now, to really help stop the stigmatization of mental health, right? I think that's really what it's all about. I went a little bit off my high horse last video, and that's just who I am. So let's pick up where we left off, right? My brother, in and out of mental institutions, and things were just a little bit chaotic, to say the least. All of this while COVID was happening, while dealing with my kids and school schedules and like all this stuff, and but then we had finally turned a corner back at the beginning of 2021. I was so proud. My brother got a job. Like, it was going so great, Well, and I take it back. So before 2021, he was working at a bowling alley for a while, but then ended up getting let go because of having to go back into a mental health facility for a while. And I'll never forget, on his 50th birthday, I actually had to go in front of a judge to have him committed to the state because they were not willing to keep him because he didn't have any money, like he didn't have any insurance, any of those things. And so that was pretty traumatic because that was his birthday and it was Christmas and all of those things. And I was just grateful when he came out of there. He was a little pissed at me at first, which I don't blame him. I would have been pissed off too, but it needed to be done. And so, of course, we got over it, whatever. And so we got out, and I felt like we were finally on the right medication, the right diagnosis. He was seeing therapists. Like, we were really on a great track at this point, right? And he was living with my parents. He ended up getting a job as a maintenance person at a local RV park in Canyon Lake, because we're in very much a tourist town, and they offered him a free RV spot. And so we ended up buying him a brand new RV, a really nice one. So that way he'd have his own place to live, like really like, bird wings fly, all the things. So that's really what we wanted for him, is to be self-sufficient, to get his confidence back, and that way he could have a life. Let's start over. Let's reset at 50, And so he was doing really good. So good. I had been over to his place a couple times, come over for lunch, go check on him, meet some of his coworkers, and at that point too, my cousin Michael, who I love so much, he was helping out too. He was coming into town a lot, hanging out with my brother, like trying to get him. And at that point, Michael didn't know all the details of what we had been going through with his mental health. He just thought guy had some issues and that was that. He didn't realize to the extent of what it was until, a few weeks in. But it was so good because like the last 2 months of Guy's life, Michael really took him under his wing, took him to Houston. They went on trips, they went and did stuff, like got out and just enjoyed life, together. And about a month before we lost my brother, I remember I had some issues with my ovaries and all this stuff, and had done like a real quick day surgery, and everything was fine, and then about 2 weeks later, I start going into labor, like fully dilated to a 10 labor. It was impossible for me to be pregnant here nor there. They couldn't get the labor to stop. I spent about a week in the hospital. And as all that was going on, our adopted father was also having heart issues, ended up needing open heart surgery. I remember one day, me and my dad were in 2 separate hospitals, both going into surgery. It was a very chaotic time. So needless to say, there was not a lot of engagement with my brother at that point, because my brother was the type, he only called when he needed something, and I would call him to check on him. We did not have the type of relationship where he called to check on me, called to take care of me. That was not who we were. And it was very one-sided, which I was okay with. I had taken on the role of basically his mom, his caretaker, the one responsible for him, and I was fine with that. And so, I'm in the hospital, and then I get home and I'm recovering, and I remember calling him and I'm like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I was trying to feel a little bit better. I'm going to be on medical leave for about 6 weeks. I was about 2 weeks in. And I said, well, hey, I know we were talking about organizing your things in your RV, making it more home-like, let's do it this weekend. Okay, great. Let's do it this weekend, And so I'll never forget too. So that Friday, I had made a hair appointment because I needed my hair done, and I go over there, and it's usually blonde like it is now. And I remember I told my hairstylist, I'm like, I really want to go rose gold. And she looks at me and goes, what? you've never in all the years have been able to do like a fun color because you have a corporate life job. And I said, well, here's the beautiful thing. I said, we're not meeting in person. I'm not seeing anybody I know anytime soon except my immediate family. It's all on camera. I could totally hide it. Nobody would even know, I'm not going to see anybody. And she's like, okay, let's do it. So I went completely rose gold pink with my hair, right? And we were laughing about it. And then I went and picked up the kids from my parents and took them over to see the Spirit movie. Once they have kids, you know what movie that is, about the horse and all that. We were having a grand old time. And we were driving back and we got out of the movie and I had missed a bunch of calls and my husband was at a work meeting in San Marcos. And so I'm like, well, that's weird. Why is he calling me? Like, he's at a meeting, he knows I'm at the movies. And he's like, hey, are you home? And I'm like, no, I'm driving home, like 2 minutes away. And he said, well, I need you to get home and put the kids inside and I need you to wait outside for me. And I'm like, what? You're on your way home? Like, what's going on? He's like, I need you to do this. And I was like, oh shit, like what? Like, are you divorcing me? Like, what is going on? Of course he would ever divorce me, but whatever. So I was like, okay, fine, cool, whatever. So I'm standing out there waiting on him and he's like, get in the truck. And I'm like, oh God, okay, He's like, don't call your parents, just get in the truck, come on. And I'm like, oh God, what are you gonna murder me? Are you murdering me? I think you're murdering me, I don't know, whatever. And so I get in the truck and he's like, I don't know how to tell you this. And I'm like, what are you gonna tell me? Like, as you see, I make a lot of jokes, what are you gonna tell me? And he's like, your brother's dead. And in that moment, it was complete silence. And I didn't understand the words. And I'm like, what happened? Like, I thought he was murdered. You know what I mean? Like, what happened? And he's like, he killed himself. What? No, this can't be right. Are you sure? I don't think you're sure. I don't think, no. Like, I'm going over there tomorrow. Like, we have all these plans. We're going to go get storage stuff and we're going to do all these things. And this can't be right. You must be wrong. You have to be wrong. And he wasn't, And so we had found out the next morning I had to go to his place right away. I needed answers that the cops weren't giving us because they were investigating, And I came across his medicine and, he had stopped taking his medication for schizophrenia, which was eventually his diagnosis, about 3 weeks before. Yeah. You want to talk about guilt? Because I wasn't there the last couple of weeks. I was this person and I was not there. So that was really hard. It was really hard, I was very fortunate though, because I was on medical leave, oh my gosh, this hair is in my face. Because I was on medical leave, I had 4 weeks off, and so I had time to go find a trauma therapist because that was really important. And I had time to, pick out his casket and figure out what he was going to wear. And he would have hated it, by the way. He would have hated his funeral. But he didn't leave me any instructions, and it was all on me. It was all on me. And if it was up to him, he wanted to be buried in a cardboard box, something real cheap. He didn't want to cost me any money. He never did. But what he didn't know is a cardboard box is like $1,000. Just PS, by the way. It's expensive. And so it just made more sense to get a really pretty wooden casket. And then plan the service out, and talk to his kids and find out what his kids wanted to do and what my kids wanted to do because they were real close to their uncle. Like, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. And so that was really hard, but I feel very fortunate that I had the 4 weeks because I don't know how people only get 3 days. Like, that's crazy. There's no way I could have done it in 3 days, so I was very fortunate in that situation. So yeah. So I will wrap this up because we're already 9 minutes in. Good Lord, I'm getting long-winded. So thank you guys so much. Again, like, share if you got a few bucks, maybe skip your Starbucks, go throw it in our fund, whatever you want to do. All right, thanks guys.